This is my Christmas message to those of you who might see this, and hopefully you'll subscribe if you haven't done so already. And my third attempt now of having a YouTube channel that isn't going to be ripped off again by the authorities. So I hope that I'll keep on topics that are deemed acceptable by those who seek to control us. And if you subscribe, it will be an absolute delight and pleasure to have you. And if you've suddenly found the channel again, believe me, I'm glad to be back. Because I think it's important with the messages we all hope to convey to one another to increase the awareness and expose the tissue of lies that has been spread before us from the time of our birth to the time of our death. And it's almost like a cobweb. It's like an entanglement of life should never be like this, should it? We should never be lied to, but we are lied from the moment we're born. We are abused in so many ways, physically and mentally, until the time they pop us in a box and put us in a hole. I think it'll be good to recap my core beliefs to you if you're new, and remind you, if you're an old hand at watching my videos, exactly the sort of person you're listening to, because you want to see the cut of my jib, as they say. So I will expose myself in a more acceptable way to you and others who may be new, and those who don't know me and my viewpoints. I think it's only fair that you're knowing the sort of lunatic you're listening to, if that's what you want to think. And as Shakespeare often said, if thine eye offends thee, pluck it out. You don't have to watch my channels, but it's nice to be given the choice. At least know who you're listening to. Well, the only way I really want to convey this information to you is tell you my core beliefs. So that's the purpose of this Christmas message to you. First of all, I wish you and your family a happy Christmas and an exciting, prosperous New Year, against all the odds of them wanting, them being who they are, wanting you not to prosper, and certainly not to succeed in life, because that is not what they're interested in. Us on the outside looking in are required to do. We are here as serfs, most of us. And less than 1% of the world's population are actually included in the gang who seek to control us. Is that paranoid, you might say? Well, you're right. It is paranoid, and it pays to be paranoid in this world. It absolutely does. Because they are out to get us in so many ways. It is staggering to the average person on the street. So where to start? Well, my core beliefs. Let us look at what happened to us as children. Well, before we're assaulted, from the moment we're born, we're taken away within 30 seconds of our mother having us snatched away from her. She is cleaned up post-delivery, of course. We are put in and thrust into the hands of healthcare workers, for want of a better phrase, who inject us with vitamin K within 30 seconds to a minute, and that is apparently to aid in our clotting ability in case we are born, all of us, deficient in vitamin K, which is highly unlikely given the care that our parents have received in Western society anyway. But they've just got to get that injection in. And you only have their word that it is indeed just vitamin K they're sticking in your baby when they take it away. And then, of course, the assault happens with the inoculations, and I needn't go on about those. We're all sure about those. The compulsories, we're talking UK. The United States, of course, oh, that's another matter. That is a complete assault. And that is child abuse if ever there was. But suffice to say, in the UK we get away lightly currently under the legislation. So we're whisked away from our parents' arms, and we're stuck with our parents until 0 to 5 in a decent sort of environment, one would hope. and we learn social intercourse, and by the time we get to that stage we are stolen away from our mother as she drops us off by law at the age of 5 straight into the hands of the nursery schools, where we of course are met with our first experience of what we consider to be a teacher. And the first thing they do, of course, when you're teaching, after you've dried your little tears, is to sit in a classroom full of other children who are equally alienated from one another. It's our first experience of being totally torn away and independent of our mother or father, depending on how you're brought up. Nowadays it could be Jemima has 2 mummies or David has 2 daddies. Such is the sickness in our society now of having same-sex marriages with the ability to adopt children. So it's not a good state of affairs, I don't think. I am personally wholly opposed to same-sex marriage. Fine, if you are into same-sex relationships, that's just great and dandy for you. But to bring children up in such a... It's been scientifically proven that children who have 2 parents, one of each sex, fare far better through life than Jemima has 2 mummies. You understand what I'm trying to say? Or Richard has 2 daddies. It just simply is so detrimental to a child's upbringing. Now, there may be the odd occasion, the odd couple, if you like, that makes a raving success of bringing up their child. If they are in a same-sex marriage, well, hats off to them, but it's quite a rarity, and the jury is still out on the long-term effects of that relationship upon a child as that child goes through into adulthood. But fortunately for me, my parents were perfectly normal, male and female. I was a natural birth, and at the age of 5, straight into school in my little shorts, crying and blubbing as I was, thrust into a classroom and having to meet other children. I had the head start really, because I had 4 older siblings. I was one of the lucky ones. I'd already been taught what I couldn't do by my siblings, my senior siblings, to a point. So I had manners at least, and I learnt not to be selfish very quickly. But at school, of course, we are surrounded initially. This is my first experience. I can smell it like yesterday, and it's the first sense, one of my senses was filled at this infant school that I was thrust into. And it was in Cambridge, of all places. It smelled of pine disinfectant. Now, our body has the ability to make us remember such dramatic things in life. It creates what they call an engram in the brain. Certain experiences in life, good or bad, creates everlasting memory, and they are called engrams. It's etched like acid into our brain, and the smell of my first school, as I walked through those doors for the very first time, created an engram, and it was a mixture of vomit that had been cleaned up by pine disinfectant. Obviously children throwing up all over the place on first days at school because they get so upset and flustered, and I was no exception. But I didn't throw up. I do remember the smell of the pine as I was led away from my tearful mother and up the stairs to the classroom and sat at a desk with the other 4 or 5 children around me. And I remember to the day that the desks were alien. The posters on the wall were showing the planets of our solar system. And the very first lesson was that once we all got to know each other within our group, the girls and boys, it was a mixed school fortunately, and we were talking about the world we live on. And we all shared a globe. This was at the age of 5, can you believe this? And we were all playing with it, and the first thing the teacher said was, Children, you are in Great Britain. Can you find where we are on the ball? That was the first. I remember it like it was yesterday. Not only it was like walking into the planetarium for me. I had the ball and I passed it around and we were all looking at these strange things on these squigglies on this ball. The only my experience with a ball previously was the balls I used to play with at home with my brothers. And here I am playing with a globe for the first time. This is what we live upon, children. Yes, we live on a ball, apparently. It's called the globe. It is called Earth. And the usual guff comes out, of course. Can you find the landmass which is our country? None of us could. Not at the age of 5. And we were messing around trying to figure out what different countries meant. And we learned this. And it was drummed into us. And on top of that, we were told that the Earth is a planet. And look at the posters on the wall. That is Saturn, Uranus, Venus, and this is what they call the solar system. And we did projects of such things. We drew pictures, pretty pictures, of circles on paper. And we coloured it in and we drew what Great Britain looked like on the map. And we found out we could find it on. We were so proud of ourselves. We all knew at this stage that we lived on a planet called Earth. And it was a ball. Fancy that on your first day. And we spent 3 or 4 days talking ad nauseum about this. And I was so proud to go home and tell my giggling siblings that we lived on Earth and they'd all been through the same experience as me. It was nothing new to them. And they found my reaction quite amusing. That was the first day of my conditioning. The second time, of course, second and third days, I had to get respect in it. I had to learn that I can't just talk while my teacher was talking. And I had to give courtesy to others and let them speak first and put my hand up. Another rule before I could speak. I was being taught. Now, don't they say that the Catholics and the Jesuit schools generally say, give them a child before the age of 7 and they will provide you with a man for life, but a man of the church, i.e. they have Christian belief. Well, if you get a child young enough and teach them from day 1 at school, age 5 and onwards, that they live on a ball, the chances are they're going to have that belief for the rest of their life and nothing will shift it. Such is the power of the first few weeks at school. Not only that, we learn about the planets and the solar system and the stars. And then we have to go to what they call assembly and say, oh, what a friend we have in Jesus. And then we say and learn the Lord's Prayer. We all imagine this big man that sees everything, learns everything, he hears everything. It's a he, by the way, very sexist. And yes, they're watching our every move, so don't even think about being a bad boy or a bad girl. Such is the power of the conditioning. It is ever likely, therefore, that we grow up thinking, mistakenly, that we live on a ball, because it again creates an engram, as previously mentioned. It is such a traumatic experience and a delightful one initially to learn so much so quickly that, wow, I am on that big ball somewhere and I live in Great Britain. If you live in Russia, of course, you can imagine the conversation would be different. But here I am now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, going through the mill of learning, respecting it, and still having this core belief, this so vital, it's taught to you very first as a primary bit of education, hence the word primary school, that I know my place in life. I know there's a man called Jesus watching over my every move. Okay. I learnt social intercourse with my classmates and teachers, and I learnt what authority was, and I learnt what a cane across the backside felt like. or I had severe discipline at the school I went to. So it's ever likely that I do have a core belief that all the way through my education that I lived on a ball. I had no idea that until Copernicus times, of course, that we all never even give it a second thought. I personally never gave it a second thought when I was, even before I went to school. It never occurred to me, never once occurred to me that I live on a ball. Why would it, when everything around me was horizontal? It never occurred to me. I saw the sun come along and go away again. I saw the moon go across round and round the garden like a teddy bear. Not once did I ever imagine that we lived on a ball. It didn't occur to me because, in the wonderful words of Judge Judy Scheindlin, if you're into Judge Judy, she says something quite amazing in her show. She says, if it doesn't sound right, it's probably not true. And living on a ball, folks, is not true. Because it just simply didn't sound right from the off for me. But you say that you live on a flat earth nowadays, and you are such a pariah. How very dare you? You must be a moron if you think we're on a flat earth. Well, we should come to that. So my core belief is we are living on a flat plane. Okay, it's quite deliberate that we are expected to believe the nonsense that we live on a ball. Come on. Get real. We live on a flat plane. And the only way I can describe this flat plane is exactly what you see in front. We don't have a north and south pole in the true sense of what we're led to believe, but we do have a ring of ice around us, around a landmass you can see in the picture. And we have the sun and the moon, one there and one opposite. They go round and round the garden like a teddy bear. Okay? And sometimes you might just see the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time. There are many times you can see that. And if we lived on a ball, the sun, if it was up in Australia, would not be seen in the sky with the moon at the same time. But it is often seen in the sky at the same time. How would you account for that? Okay. And the other one is, we apparently, as a ball, rotate in an entire circle, 360 degrees. Every 24 hours we go round. The ball rotates. Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? Not. We rotate at such a speed that the whole world can rotate in 24 hours. Well, that would be great for helicopter flight, wouldn't it? Because you can just take off and hover, and the land below you would rotate under your very feet. And when you reach a time of having to land to the country of your choice, you could just sink back down. There would be no need for forward travel in aircraft, would there? If the world was rotating in excess of 1,000 miles under your very feet, as you sat in your helicopter, hovering. You see, you can sit there and disprove and create equations, but here's the bummer. If we live on a ball, how come that the water, which is a very fluid substance, you'll agree, doesn't drip off the sides and fall into the nothingness? On top of that, of course, then, it's like, yes, we are living in this big vacuum called outer space. Well, what's stopping our vacuum or atmosphere being drawn away by this vacuum they call outer space? That's the thing to ponder, isn't it? The whole thing defies logic. If you open the lid on a jar that has a vacuum in it, it goes pop as the vacuum and the air equalize in pressure. Or what's stopping our atmosphere that we breathe every day disappearing like a fart in the wind to the vacuum of space? Is it gravity? Absolutely not. Gravity is a theory. It's not a proven fact. It's never been proven. It really simply doesn't exist. It's a matter of weight and density. Sorry, of mass and density, that's all. There's no such thing as gravity, folks. It's another bullshit theory. And even the calculations have been shown to be fraudulent. Einstein couldn't quite get it right either and had to be corrected. And I'm a big fan of Tesla, and he corrected Einstein's unfavourable mathematics quite regularly, to the point of disproving much of it. Einstein was a fraud in many ways, a bullshit artist par excellence. But what is stopping our atmosphere disappearing? Well, I'm not religious. You might be surprised to know that. I am anti-theist. I don't have any religious beliefs. But there is a creator. But not in the sense that we are led to believe. But whoever or whatever created our system, it is too magnificent to be left to chance. And this earth is unique. The earth we live upon, the planet that we live upon, is unique. And it is different to the others out there. There are others out there that look like balls. They are simply gas balls. And we only have NASA's word and the scientists' word that they have landmass. Because you personally have never been there. You could look through your telescopes as much as you like and you can say, wow, yes, Mars has land and we've put things on. Have you been? Do you know that Mars is a 4-year trip, even at super duper duper speed, just to get there? Well, notwithstanding that, we just think all the other planets are balls, therefore we are a ball. But no, the Earth is unique. It is not a ball. It is a flat plane. So, in a sense, I'm trying to be as brief as I can about my core beliefs. And I can do a separate video about why I could convince you quite easily if you have put your listening ears on and get rid of your core beliefs ingrained within you and thrust upon you from primary school. Let us move on. The other thing we have to dispel out of our mind is that governments have our vested interest at heart. They certainly don't. They have their own vested interests at heart. They are operating on radio WIIFM. That's what's in it for me. WIIFM. What's in it for me. That's what they operate on. And it suits them to keep us in a state of absolute ignorance. The compulsory inoculations are designed to dumb us down with mercury and thymol. Less said, sooner mended, of course. Get the injections in before the kids can even think rationally. Get them stupefied on drugs and booze, and a second to third rate ingestion of horrific food additives that are meant to keep us in a case of being a mental, vacuous idiot. Well, there we are. What else then? Well, the inoculation program is designed as a eugenics program. Ask Bill Gates. Very cynical about that. Cynical for sure. Right, absolutely. There's a eugenics program in full swing at the moment, trying to depopulate the world of 4/5 of the people. And they're doing it by spraying us like flies with an insect repellent called chemtrails. And if you don't think chemtrails exist, I've got a nice bridge I'd like to sell you. Again, a core belief. Well, why is religion here? Why is religion being thrust upon us as children? Because it's one of the few ways, it's almost a perfect way of doing mind control on the masses. Religion is indeed the biggest form of mass mind control known to man. Without religion, can you imagine? In the words of Starry, Starry Night by Don McLean, Vincent's song, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, isn't it? Imagine another fabulous song by John Lennon, A World of No Religion. But those operating on radio, what's in it for them? They want this world for themselves, and they want to depopulate the world down to 500 million, and that is on the Georgia Guidestones. So far we've looked at the indoctrination of teaching our children we live on a ball as a first top priority. Then we thrust upon them the religion in any kind you like, and make sure you better believe you're being watched just in case you stray from the path and start asking difficult questions. And the other things we're taught to believe is that oil is a fossil fuel and will die out on one day, so we must find alternative ways of running our cars, and there is no such thing as things for nothing. But tell that to Tesla. Okay. Well, he knew better, didn't he? Oil is not a fossil fuel, folks. It has nothing to do with dead dinosaur bones decaying into a black mass. Oil is an abiotic solution, and it is produced in excess of 35,000 feet below your feet. There has never been a fossil of any kind found deeper than 15,000 feet. So how could the dinosaurs' bones even sink down, or the rotting trees mixed with dinosaur bones sink down to 35,000 feet? They just didn't. No. Oil is being replenished by the earth naturally, faster than humans could possibly consume it. So the scarcity factor is man-made. The other scam that I am aware of in life, at the age of 57, is that there are more diamonds in this world than you could possibly shake a stick at. They are as common as a dog turd in the park. They are only kept away from the idiots and create the scarcity factor so the price goes up. Diamonds, to be honest with you, are less valuable than cubic zirconia, truth be known, because they are prolific. They just scoop them up and make them hard for us to get. Ask De Beers and co. So we are again lied to. You see how the lies continue from sperm to worm, from birth to coffin. Okay, the lies will continue. The television, the mass media, the media in itself, everything spewing out towards us, the marketing, mind control that goes on a human being is quite disgraceful. We will either end up being 65, bored or broke, or all three of them. We'll live in a box, we'll watch a box, we'll get put in a box, and we'll get put in a hole. Every man, Jack, and one of us. And that'll be our lot in life. It is what you do between the start and the finish, and what you believe will dictate the type of journey you will have. And if you don't think for yourselves, believe me, others will think for you. Okay. So the inoculations are not designed to protect you. The information you get at school is not designed to educate you. They don't want us educated, us my cogger. They really don't. They want us to be clever enough, just so much and just enough that we can add and take away and read a clock and go to work and go home. And then when we've done that, a majority of our productive life, shuffle off the mortal coil as fast as possible to make way for another working bee. And if you don't think that that is what is the agenda for you, you are sadly mistaken. In the classic words of Neo, we are but batteries. That's what we are. The kind of life you will have from the time you're born to the time you'll die on, for the most part, you're influenced by the company you keep, the information you discard and keep and apply. It's no good having the information if you don't apply it. And make sure that you do one thing, and one thing only, is that you love your fellow human beings. Respect animals. And if you won't go far wrong in life, if you treat others as you'd expect to be treated. This is how I operate. The other thing I'd like to highlight is that we're all led to believe that we are watched by satellites. And the satellites are omnipotent and they will know everything. Yes, well, let me tell you, satellites that you are led to believe exist do not believe in the way that you think they exist. Okay? The only satellites above your head are static. They're supposed to be, but they are in low Earth orbit. Okay? There are no satellites in outer space. Because at the beginning of this video I talked about how is it our atmosphere doesn't bugger off like a fart in the wind if you remember the phase or even phrase. Well, there is a cap upon our Earth, our flat Earth. This is our flat Earth. The water doesn't escape because it's encased in a circle of ice wall. Okay? Over this, like a cap, is what they call a firmament. And a firmament is like one of those domes, a glass dome you put over a stuffed animal or a stuffed bird in a cage. Oh, and it encapsulates the air in which we use within the firmament, the dome. If we didn't have the dome, the external air we have available to us would go and we'd all suffocate. All right, and this is how we propagate radio signals. We shoot radio signals up, it hits the firmament and gets bounced back down, and we can therefore communicate to the far or four corners of the world. Yes, the world has corners, you just don't know. But why would they say that we live on a ball? That would show that we are therefore not going to be able to escape this prison planet, this ball, because we'll go round and round and round in circles, wouldn't we? In any direction you choose. You see, there's no escape. You're here and you're a prisoner. But let me tell you, I'm showing you a circle here. But what is the landmass outside this? If I tilt it that way and make it horizontal for you. What's out here? What's up here? What's over there? You don't know. but have an imagination. You're not allowed to go over to the Antarctic and explore, because some people on this world, the flat one, know precisely that there are other land masses. In fact, there are infinite land masses. There are bigger planes than what we know exist, or believe, or led to believe exist. They are just not accessible to plebs like you and me. Aeroplanes have been known to fly over the Antarctic ice walls and go to other areas and just speak and look for Admiral Byrd stories about such things. But don't you even think about flying near them, because you'll be shot down. Or what have they got to hide? They know. The Chinese 7,000 years ago knew that there were other land masses well into Antarctic and Arctic areas. So folks, in essence, that's the lunatic you're listening to is me. And I will be going into more detail about each thing as we talk and meet, hopefully, on a daily basis for your delectation or your total dismissal as a lunatic. And I will try to keep it simple. I'll stay away from religion, particularly because it's a touchy subject. You get your channel taken off you, lest it offends, of course. Okay, but other than that, I think it's fair game to be able to talk about anything and everything, and I try not to get pigeonholed into one particular area. But I would ask you to have an open mind, because, well, the mind is like a parachute, you know. It'll only work when it is open. Have an open mind, and that way you'll be able to take the information in, discard what you don't like, and keep and investigate yourself. But I would summarize by first saying if there was one thing I wanted to get across to you, if you are virgin to my videos, is that we are living on a flat plane, and it suits those who seek to control us to convince us we are living on a ball. Because we're living on a ball, we won't want to run away like I often feel like doing. It keeps the animals herded and penned in. More of that tomorrow. Have a lovely Christmas. Don't drink too much. And an exciting, more educated and exciting New Year for you and yours. Stay away from the bullheads. Detrimental to your core beliefs, one would hope. Dib dib, happy Christmas. Wonderful New Year.